The rival to Illumination and the enemy to Disney, Dreamworks is one of the biggest animation forces in the world. With the Shrek franchise putting them on the map, Dreamworks has just as many recognizable heroes in fiction to match their foes at the happiest place in the world.
I'ma gas you so hard your grandchildren will stink.
But among these heroes, who is the best of the best? Which one is truly the most righteous? Who's the most selfish hero, and who's going to be the most noble protagonist? Well, there's only one way to find out, folks. I'm Brad with Wicked Binge, and this is Dreamworks Heroes. Good to most good.
There is no charge for awesomeness.
We'll be starting with the self-serving heroes, the heroes who are in it for themselves and their close family. Not bad, still good, but not as good as others. Starting us off, oh no, it's O from Home.
Hi guys!
Oh.
Now, this is the closest this list has to a villain. He's from a race of aliens called the Boov, who take over the Earth as an attempt to escape their enemy, the Gorg. As part of their invasion, they end up kidnapping the entire human race and relocate them all to Australia. Now, to give credit where it's due, O isn't the leader of the Boov and didn't call for this to happen, and the Boov did make sure that the humans have their own homes in Australia, stating they don't plan on causing harm on purpose.
Rest of planet is for Boov. Win-win.
However, this doesn't account for how everyone in the world would feel about this massive change. While the Boov aren't trying to hurt people, it is very easy to see just how this could go terrible. Not only that, but the Boov, O included, pretty much take over the rest of the world and Earth's continents. He even believes that this is somehow liberating to the humans.
Boov, liberate and befriend.
He also ends up endangering his entire race by sending out an invitation to every single other alien race out there, including the Gorg, their enemy. Sure, it turns out that the Gorg were just looking for the rest of their species.
What was in that thing?
Gorg family.
And then he ends up helping Tip save their races. But it's also hard just to ignore him and his race happily taking over the Earth, and O inviting whatever hostile alien creature that was out there to party on Earth and do who knows what. He may mean well, but he certainly doesn't do well.
Best friend Kyle.
I am not your friend!
Our second worst hero goes to Tim Templeton. Now, to be fair, Tim really is just a kid, and he has his age as an excuse, and his movie is already confusing. It's pretty hard to figure out just what Tim is imagining and what is real. That being said, there are a couple of things that we can say for certain, namely his rivalry with the Boss Baby.
Never.
This is typical for any only child that is getting a new baby sibling, as they would feel threatened and unloved with the parents taking care of them. What isn't normal, however, is threatening to catapult a baby out into traffic with a very high chance of killing him.
Say bye-bye, baby. You're fired.
Now, granted, hearing a baby with Alec Baldwin's voice can make you feel scared. Granted, yes, Tim does end up learning how to get along with this new baby brother. That being said, with how dodgy the credibility of his story is, and what we do know of him painting his relationship with his younger brother, it certainly doesn't help his case. While he is still a kid and did get a better relationship with his brother, trying to launch a baby out of your house definitely doesn't do you favors.
Getting along is exhausting.
Up next, at the third worst, we have the raccoon RJ. As the protagonist from Over the Hedge, RJ ends up creating his own problems by stealing food for survival against a bear called Vincent.
RJ, I'm gonna have to kill you.
As bad as it is, it's at least vital for survival, although it's all in vain after the food is crushed. Why can't he just eat the crushed food? We don't know, but what we do know is Vincent threatened RJ with being eaten if he doesn't give him a new food.
I will hunt you down and kill you.
So it's hard to say he doesn't at least have a motive. That being said, whatever he does in trying to get his food is questionable, like tricking a group of wild animals into stealing food from humans. However, he did end up forming a genuine bond with them throughout their adventure.
This is nice, guys. Really nice.
He ends up even sacrificing the food cart that he built throughout the story to save the animals from the exterminator. As bad and tricky of a raccoon he is at first, he ends up becoming a friend to the animals behind the hedge. He may be a wild animal, but he is much more civilized than other wild critters.
Welcome to the family.
Moving outside the bottom three, we have Grug Crude. As the father of the family, he's the one who's more or less leading his family away from their old cave to a brand new land, a place called Tomorrow.
Hopefully nothing big knows we're here yet.
The problem lies with his rivalry with the newcomer, Guy. Fearing his newer and sharper mind, He ends up trying to downplay him at every turn. This can range from just trying to invent stuff to surpass Guy, to great failures, and even trying to flat out beat him. However, he is a father first and foremost. He's more than willing to put his family first, such as when he throws them to safety across a continental split. He even ends up warming up to Guy after hearing how the poor fellow lost his family.
We need one of your ideas.
His greatest heroic feat, however, is saving the lives of a bunch of animals by using Guy's own genius to create a makeshift plane to carry them to safety. As arrogant as he was at the beginning, he certainly did grow into a better man. Cave man, that is. We honestly can't believe that Oscar isn't in the bottom 3. It's pretty obvious just why so many people hate Oscar. Well, in the real world. He's an immature narcissist.
Come on, shorties, why y'all messing with my fantasy?
He bets an antique pearl that his best friend gave him in a horse race he thought was rigged. Then, he took credit for killing Frankie the shark and still doesn't realize that Angie loves him till she says it. It's pretty easy to rank Oscar as the least kind hero, possibly even a villain. So why isn't he up any further? Well, a couple of things. For starters, he really does seem to try to be buddies with Lenny the shark. In a scene when Lenny confessed that he's a vegetarian, despite his urge to laugh, Oscar accepts it and even helps Lenny try to get over Frankie's death, saying it's not his fault.
I think all sharks should be like you.
He also isn't afraid to give Angie her due respect when he gets popular, saying he couldn't have done it without her. Even later, when he realized just how badly he hurt her with his lie, he became dead set on setting things right with Angie. However, the best thing he did was to not only help Lenny reconcile with his father, the Don of the Shark Mafia, but also was to end their war between the fishes and the sharks. As bratty and insensitive as he was at the start, he did at least show more character growth than any other Dreamworks protagonist like O. In the words of the Don Shark, "We're cool, Oscar."
Yeah, we're cool.
Moving on to genuinely good protagonist, we have the snail Turbo. Originally a garden snail called Theo, he always dreamed of being fast like his racing hero Guy Gagne.
Head in the game, head in the game.
One accidental trip got him into a supercharged speed, and he became as fast as a race car. After getting exiled from the garden snail community with his brother Chet, he ended up in a rundown mall where they work with a taco truck driver called Tito, bringing in brand new energy to the mall.
It's her girlfriend.
Now, while Turbo hasn't done many good deeds, he definitely doesn't have any bad marks either. He's more than willing to save his brother from a crow, even after Chet disowned Turbo. Turbo also was willing to help out Tito in revitalizing the mall, using his racing powers. But aside from those two deeds, that's all he really did. Sure, it's great that Turbo helped revive a dying place.
Free tacos for everybody!
Although in terms of morality, he does end up on the good side, but doesn't have any major feats. He's as straightforward and simple as a race car on a race strip. Up next, we have the pirate Sinbad. As a pirate, it's pretty easy to see just why he isn't any higher. He's more than happy to go around and steal stuff that isn't his, including the Book of Peace, with a plan to hold it for ransom. Even being friends with Prince Proteus, the holder of the book, isn't enough to dissuade him from his goal. What is, however, is when the Greek sea monster Satis attacks them. He may want the book, but he doesn't want to kill his friend for it. Sinbad doesn't want to see his friend die, even going on a quest to return the book to save his life.
There it is, noble hero.
He was more than willing to let his crush Marina marry Proteus if she really loved him. He was even willing to take his friend's place and die when he could have just fled. True, he does end up with her, and he escapes with his life. But it's a thought that counts. A pirate he may be, but a good guy he truly is.
Good sailing, Sinbad.
Up next at number 8, we have the fake gods Miguel and Tulio. Like con artists, the two have no qualms with deceiving and tricking others into believing them and going along with their schemes.
Not with those. This time we use my dice.
After being run out of town by their latest con, they end up in El Dorado, where the denizens there believe that they are actually gods. The two are more than happy to let them believe this and to soak up this false fame.
Come, let me show you to your temple.
Despite this, the two do end up getting some genuine appreciation for the city, aside from the riches they offer. Miguel ends up becoming enraptured by the city itself, and Tulio ends up enraptured by their partner, Shell. When the chips are down and the city is in danger, they both are willing to help the citizens against the Spanish conquistador Hernan Cortez, even if it means losing their money.
It was so much gold!
They may be thieves after gold, but they still have a bit of gold in their hearts in the end. Second to last, here in the self-serving category, is Z4195 from Ants. Z is an ant worker who feels like he doesn't belong. He only wants to express himself.
I'm insignificant, but with attitude.
After falling in love with the ant colony's princess, Bala, he ends up as a war hero after trading places with his friend, even if the only thing he really did was not to die.
You're a little short for a war hero, aren't you?
Due to panic, he ends up outside of the ant colony with the princess and tries heading off to a new land with her, thus leaving their old life and colony behind. Despite his original acts of fear, he ends up becoming a hero by saving the princess from being crushed by sneakers. When Bala ends up getting kidnapped by Mandible, her fiancé who wants to stage a coup, Z returns to save the colony from getting drowned and almost drowning himself in the process.
Give me a hand.
Even after marrying Bala, he ends up helping the ant colony grow after being beaten down thanks to Mandible.
We rebuilt the colony. It's even better than before.
At one point, he may look like a coward and only wanted to look after himself, but at the end of it all, he's a true hero, despite his size. Up last in this category, we have Mr. Peabody. He's a scientific genius.
I devoted myself to helping mankind.
More than anything else, just wants to make his son Sherman happy. However, he ends up becoming quite overbearing, leaving his son in the dark when Grunion was planning on breaking them apart. And for as polite as he isn't afraid of biting Grunion as he tried to pull his son away. While he is protective of him, trying to convince someone you're a good parent by biting them isn't going to do it. While it's easy to see that Peabody is selfish to an extent, he is the most selfish figure here. Peabody is a chiropractor that managed to not only find several ways of saving energy, but also does his part to promote peace. He's also more than willing to put his life on the line to save his son and friend. The only reason he's this slow is that the main motive he has is to just save his son from being taken away from him.
Don't you know what happens to dogs that bite?
He's definitely a good dog, but we don't see him in the best of light in this movie. With that said, we're now moving on to the society-saving heroes, the protagonists that end up making the world a better place to live for their neighbors and communities, as well as himself. The first entry spot belongs to George and Harold. George is the kid on the right with the tie and the flat top. Harold is the one on the left with the t-shirt and bad haircut. Remember that. They're pranksters that attend Jerome Horowitz Elementary School, a school which heavily discourages creativity and fun.
More like Jerome Horowitz Penitentiary.
While pranks would normally be cause for being villains, they actually have a genuine good reason for doing this, seeing their pranks as the only way the kids can have some fun and still be happy. They also make comics to help raise spirits around the school. True, their comics do end up creating the villain, Professor Poopy Pants. They end up creating more good than bad. However, their best deed is accidentally creating Captain Underpants, a hero who ends up saving the day near the end of the movie against Poopy Pants, the villain they accidentally created.
I have come to save the day!
Overall, they may not be perfect, but as far as kids go, you can definitely do way worse, like Tim launching babies. Somebody once told me that Shrek was next. You all know Shrek at this point. He's a green ogre who lives in a swamp, feared by the residents of the town.
This is the part where you run away.
He is perfectly happy and content with his life, being a gross-out all-star until some fairy tale creatures end up hiding out there. After a quest to save Fiona from the dragon to get his swamp back, he ends up falling in love with her, and not only marries her, but by the end of the series, he ends up with his own little family living in the swamp. Now, there is no doubt that Shrek is a hero. He ends up saving a princess, stopping the fairy godmother and Prince Charming, even in an alternative reality that saved the kingdom from the rule of Rumpelstiltskin. However, the reason he isn't any higher is the fact that Shrek was pretty much okay just living in a swamp with Fiona and his children. Heck, before the fairy tale creatures invaded his swamp, he was just happy terrorizing whoever came out to try and kill him. He even makes a deal with Rumpelstiltskin to just have one day to terrorize the town.
No, Shrek. You gave it to me.
Shrek is love, Shrek is life, Shrek is a good guy, but not the best. Fittingly, at unlucky number 13, we have the unlucky Megamind. He's an alien sent to Earth who had the misfortune of landing in prison.
Can we keep it?
Being raised by the prisoners, he's grown up to treat crime as good and law as bad. His years in school only reinforce his idea that he was meant to be a bad guy, constantly being upstaged by Metro Man, his enemy and rival. However, after Metro Man faked his death and made Megamind think he killed him, he took over the city, only to realize how unfulfilling it felt to him, and realized how much he wanted to find a purpose in life.
But without him, what's the point?
Now, despite being a villain, he really isn't a bad guy. Even before his transformation into a hero, he always expected Metro Man to win and never really wanted to kill him. In fact, he was ecstatic when he found out that he was still alive.
Are you a ghost?
He also seemed to respect Roxanne, not hurting her in his schemes and letting her leave him after she found out about his disguise. Of course, what puts him this high is the fact that he's willing to improve himself after defeating Titan. He became the new hero of the city to work off his life sentences. Although he may not be a hero for his entire life, he's just as good as one, deep down, and has a chance to finally show it.
Sorry, he's just not used to positive feedback.
The free spirit, Spirit, is next. As a horse, all Spirit really wants to do is be free and not be tamed by anyone. After being captured by humans, he makes it his goal to be untamed.
But I was still thinking, snake.
He wills to hurt any human that tries to tame him, be it with cruelty, as the Colonel found out, or even with kindness, as Little Creek discovered. The only thing Spirit wants to be tied down to is his mate, Rain. Rain is fine with the idea of being a horse that lets others tame her. Despite his insistence refusing to be ridden, he's still more than willing to help out Little Creek and Rain, such as when the Colonel tried to shoot Little Creek, Spirit intercepts it, deciding to let Little Creek ride him for their safety, and racing over to Rain when she falls into a river and over a waterfall. He then decides to stay with her till help arrived. Spirit ends up helping out a herd of horses that were stuck pulling a train by destroying their chains and saving them from slavery. He has a title, Spirit Who Cannot Be Broken, for a good reason. Up next, we have the noble chicken, Ginger. The leader of a pack of hens on a farm, Ginger is constantly trying to find ways to escape the farm with her friends. It's shown that she's been trying to help her flock escape to safety, despite failing every single time, and even questioning herself with her abilities to actually pull it off.
I know our last escape attempt was a bit of a fiasco.
She has definitely been through the ringer more than any chicken should, but she still marches on, determined to at least die trying.
We'll either die free chickens or die trying.
With the arrival of a rooster called Rocky, through him falling out of the sky, a new surge of life sprang through her as she tried to get him to teach the chickens to fly. Later on finds out he never really knew how to fly.
Tell them what they want to hear.
You mean life?
However, upon hearing a story about how a fellow rooster was an airplane mascot, she leads her fellow chickens to create a plane that actually works. She certainly has been beaten down throughout the years, but she came through and helped her flock escape. A true heroine through and through. From a chicken, we now come to a rat called Roddy St. James. Roddy is a rat that was loving the polish and fancy lifestyle until accidentally getting flushed down the toilet by a sewer rat called Sid and ended up in an underground city.
Keep an eye on this one, He's a bit of a loony.
Crossing paths with a scavenger rat called Rita Malone, he promises that she will bring him back to his home. Now it's clear that Roddy just wants to get back home, which is understandable. We don't think being flushed down a toilet and taken away from your home would make for a pleasant experience. However, he isn't afraid to turn his back on Rita to get back to his sanctuary. On the other hand, he did believe she was going to turn him into the Toad, her archenemy that hates all rodents. So he wasn't completely unjust in his betrayal. Besides, not only does he make good on his promise of giving Rita a real ruby, but he ends up helping her save the underground city from the Toad. He could have just sent Rita on her way and let the Toad win, and he would just stay at home in his luxurious house. But no, he lets Sid take his place in his home and goes back underground to help save Rita and the city.
You're a hero, Roddy.
He even helps Rita rebuild her lost boat in the end. Roddy may be a rat, but he isn't a rat. You know what I mean. From parting the sewer waters to parting the seas, we come to Moses. If you read the Bible story, then you know who he is. Moses is the messenger sent by God to be the deliverer of the Jews Jews from the rule of Ramses, promising that he and the people of Egypt will suffer from great plagues. In the end, despite his stubbornness, after losing his son, Ramses lets the slaves go. Moses leads them out past the Red Sea, letting the water crash against the troops of Ramses after he tries to give chase. Thanks to Moses' efforts, he ends up saving the Jews from slavery. However, in this version, Moses isn't perfect. In fact, he was actually raised as Ramses' brother after being found, and as such, grew up to not really care about the slaves. In fact, the main reason he ends up caring about the slaves is when he realized that he was adopted and his true past was actually Hebrew. The similar feeling of the slaves finally realizing humanity. Up till this point, he was more than happy remaining the troublemaking kid he was. Overall, while not the flawless hero you think he is, Moses still has earned his spot here. For someone holier than Moses, we have the duo of Wallace and Gromit. This duo of a scientific genius and his dog plays the role of pest control. However, they are much more humane than other exterminators, by instead opting for ways that would save the lives of those they are tasked against.
There's a good dog.
When they are given the chance to help Toddington Hall for their annual giant vegetable competition, they happily take on the job. They help the town save their food by making rabbits uninterested in it. Now, while brainwashing is always a tricky subject morally speaking, they are at least trying to do it so that the rabbits won't have to be killed.
Rabbit rehabilitation.
Just like Victor eagerly wanting to kill the rabbit that ate vegetables. While Wallace is forced to turn into the were-rabbit after an accident with the mind manipulation omatic, he's not in control of his actions. In fact, he tries to keep it under control, even sacrificing himself to keep others safe from falling by acting as a cushion for their fall. It's hard to argue against these two, as they really just want the best for the city and seemingly have no bad traits. Jolly good showing, you two.
Well done, old pal.
From a man and his dog to just a cat, our next character here belongs to Puss in Boots. Now, while Puss is in the Shrek movies here, we're only taking into account his actions in a standalone movie, Puss in Boots.
I am but a humble gato in search of his next meal.
This cat was once an orphan troublemaker, hanging out with his best friend, Humpty Dumpty. However, after becoming a hero, he ends up losing his reputation, thanks to Humpty tricking him into a bank robbery.
This is the money of the people. This is all they have!
After finding out Humpty is planning on a heist to give some golden eggs to the town of San Ricardo, Puss takes him up on an offer as an attempt to restore his lost honor. It should be noted that he has no reason to actually care about the town. He's been framed and the city still believes he's a hero. Even after being tricked by Humpty Dumpty again, taking all the credit, Puss willingly lets himself be dragged to jail. He would have been content staying in there if it wasn't for the fact that the town was in danger, thanks to Humpty, knowing that stealing the gosling would make the goose's mother angry.
I should make you into an egg salad sandwich.
In spite of being seen as a villain, he doesn't intend on changing their view of him. In the end, he just wants to save the very town he was kicked out of. They may not all see him as a hero, but here we do. Our next slot here belongs to a group of party animals: Alex the lion, Marty the zebra, Gloria the hippo, and Melvin the giraffe of the Madagascar series. Starting out as zoo animals, they ended up getting shipped to Africa after trying to get Marty back to the zoo when he escaped trying to get to the wild.
I will handle this.
Getting knocked off the ship, the animals ended up in Madagascar, where they had to go through multiple continents to get back home. Through their travels, they ended up helping out a whole lot more than just themselves and helping out other animals in need. In their first movie, they saved a bunch of lemurs in Madagascar from being eaten by a bunch of fusas. In the second movie, they helped save a lot of animals in Africa from being dehydrated by breaking a dam that was blocking water from being given to the animals. Finally, in the third movie, after realizing that they liked being out in the circus more than being in a zoo,
Because if we follow our passion, we can go anywhere.
Before officially joining the circus, they saved some circus animals that they were with through Europe from a crazed animal hunter, Chantal Dubois. Their adventures to get back had them helping out a lot of other animals and their societies, making them more than worthy of being this high up. Now, we are really coming up to the real heroes, those that truly deserve to be remembered as some of the best heroes in the world. The world saviors. We have Hiccup and Toothless up next. The hope and heir to the tribe of the Hairy Hooligans, he is the one member in his tribe who would rather befriend dragons than just flat out killing. Getting the chance to befriend the dragon, Night Fury by the name of Toothless, he more than happily takes a chance.
I hope you're hungry.
Taming the dragon and befriending Toothless, even designing it a new tail fin after accidentally destroying his tail fin with the contraption. Through their newfound companionship, the two of them were able to help protect the land of Berk, as well as the well-being of other dragons. They even managed to get dragons and humans mixed into a prosperous society in Berk. By the third movie, this integration has proven itself to be successful enough that they're willing to rescue lost and hurt dragons and bring them back home. Of course, Hiccup let Toothless and all the other dragons free at the end of the film, but since that was done to protect them, it only strengthens their spot here.
I love you too, and I want you to be free.
They definitely went through their own share of troubles, but in the end, they came out of it as heroes. Our next hero is the heroine Poppy. As a troll, she's well known among her people as being a very friendly individual, wanting nothing more than to make others happy.
Hug time!
It is hug time.
After accidentally revealing the location of the troll to the Bergens, she became determined to save them from being eaten.
Troll.
Venturing out to the Bergens, she has made it her mission to not only save her own kind, but make it so that the Bergens are happy as well, albeit without eating the trolls.
What if there was a way we could both get what we want?
Thanks to her, she's not only able to save the trolls from Chef and Creek, a troll that betrayed his own species to save them from being eaten. Poppy also encouraged the Bergens to find their own happiness.
That feeling? That was happiness.
Her history of helping meld societies doesn't end there. However, as in World Tour, her new quest was to unite the other musical trolls together. Unfortunately, this was done at the expense of making her look egotistical, that pop music was the best kind of music and was a Bible for other trolls to live by.
We're all the same.
But we're not all the same.
She does end up learning her lesson in the end, that all these trolls are different in their own ways, and that it's all okay, destroying the magic strings and ending the possibility of them being used for controlling others. She may not always have the best ideas at times, but thanks to her, the world is better off. Right before our top 3, we have our heroine Susan Murphy of Monsters vs. Aliens. Once just a regular human, she was set to be married to Derek the newscaster, only for a meteorite to fall on her head. Thanks to the quantonium energy inside the meteorite, she ended up being forcefully resized into a giant woman, where she is reclassified as a monster and given the name Ginormica.
I'm not a monster. I'm just a regular person.
All the poor girl wants is to find a way to return to her normal life. Despite this, she still tries her best as a monster, helping out the government against the invading alien force and their giant robot. She also managed to become friends with the other monsters held by the government.
These are my new friends.
Even after seemingly losing all her powers, she still was willing to give it her all, just to save the world. Despite her giant flaw, she has still proven to have just as giant of a heart. Our Bronze Medal of Peace goes to the Penguins of Madagascar. Now, unlike Puss in Boots, where his film doesn't have any mention of the Shrek series here, the Penguins of Madagascar starts right after the end of the third movie, so their deeds from those movies will count.
I want you to look cute and cuddly, Private.
These 4 penguins build themselves as secret agents, and they're more than happy trying to help out others while achieving their own goals. Be it stealing a ship to sail to Antarctica or using violence, you can definitely see just how much they like using brute force. That being said, they're still very much on the side of good. They helped out Alex and his friends multiple times throughout the Madagascar series.
You and your little hippie friends can stay out of our hair.
From fighting the Fusas and teaching Alex about eating fish instead of meat in the first movie, fixing the plane up in the second movie, and helping to run the circus in the third film.
Operation Afro Circus Rescue!
Then there's the matter of their own movie, saving all the cute animals in the world from Dave the Octopus trying to turn them ugly. They are certainly heroes, it's just that they also relish in their actions a bit too much.
Manual! Problemo solved.
The silver trophy belongs to the largest team on this list, the Guardians. If you thought characters like Santa Claus, the Easter Bunny, and the Tooth Fairy were good, this movie cranks it up a notch. In this movie, the Guardians are Santa Claus, the Tooth Fairy, the Sandman, the Easter Bunny, and Jack Frost. They all have the same goal given to them from the Man in the Moon, to protect the children of the world.
Manny, what must we do?
Now, seeing such familiar faces, it's obvious to see just why this group is so high up. Not only are they dedicated to the safety of all children, but with the likes of Santa here just being happy to help children, it's hard not to smile with them. The only reason they aren't at number 1 is due to the newcomer, Jack.
On naughty list, you hold the record.
Now, Jack isn't a bad kid, he's far from it, but with his ego and chilled nature, pardon the pun, he definitely does have some growing to do before being up to snuff.
If you're not a kangaroo, what are you?
That said, it's still disingenuous to say that anyone here is bad. The Guardians got their title for a reason, and it shows. Finally, at the top of this chain of kind do-gooders, we have not only a big fat panda, but the big fat panda, Po.
I'm the big fat panda.
Po is a panda that was raised by a goose to be a noodle shop worker with dreams of being a kung fu fighter. However, after falling into a meeting with the Furious Five and Master Oogway, selecting a dragon warrior, he ends up becoming that very title and having to be trained by his very idols.
How did I do?
The only problem was that he is a newcomer to learning actual kung fu and is definitely overlooked by the Furious Five and their master Shifu, at least until he proved himself.
You want it? Come get it.
It's simple, really. He just has a whole lot of heart. Even after being treated like a burden by the Furious Five, he still treats them as heroes and still does his best to learn martial arts to become the Dragon Warrior. He's able to befriend the others by just being himself, improving himself, cooking, and just being nice.
It's just, oh man, I'm such a big fan.
Throughout the series, he ends up saving the valley from the likes of Tai Lung, Shen, and Kai, eventually growing up to become the successor of Master Oogway, with the goal of improving the kung fu world for the better. His heart isn't as big as his stomach. It's bigger and more than deserving of the top spot on this list. And with that, our list is concluded. Did we give someone too much credit, or did we overlook someone's heroic deeds? Let us know. Make sure to hit that notification bell and binge our Good to Evil playlist, where we break down the morality of the characters in your favorite shows, cartoons, and movies. But most importantly, stay wicked.